night, going in before we get started. Be all alone, sometimes. Got a flight to LA, I'm on it. Living on our own, we doing it like that. And when the time comes to get mobbed, then we don't let it go to waste. These long summer nights gon' fade.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Underdog podcast and the first edition of Power Rankings, my Week 2 Power Rankings, episode 9. So how these are going to work is basically they're just my thoughts on the teams, just initial thoughts. I'm not going to go too in-depth. So a team that won doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be ranked higher than a team that maybe lost. It's just kind of my thoughts on how they played as a team, and my thoughts on how, just overall how they played. Coaching gonna, factor in as well. So, and maybe like how they won the game or how they lost the game is also going to come in there. So you're going to see some teams that won that are maybe, lower on my list for, somewhat obvious reasons. And then the others will be like, what? And I already know there's going to be two fan bases in particular, maybe three that are like, what is the matter with you? But we'll see. Starting off with 32, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I expected them to win this game against Houston, although I thought Houston had a legit chance to pull it out, but they just looked awful, man. Inorganized on offense. They couldn't stop Houston on defense, which was just pathetic. And Urban Meyer really didn't seem to be kind of in touch with the NFL game. It just wasn't a good look. Trevor Lawrence really did not play well. And I think it shows that they really have a lack of talent. And they just looked like they had a lack of effort, which is inexcusable in my opinion at the NFL level. And then coming in at 31 is the team that beat them. Right above them is the Houston Texans, who I thought coming into this year were the worst team, but they really they came out and they came to play. They all have a big chip on their shoulder because that team doesn't have a ton of talent. They have a lot of guys who either aren't household names or were and have been injured or kind of just cast off. And Tyrod Taylor really is one of the bigger names at the top of that list, and he really kind of went out there and was slinging it and really didn't have, it just looked like he was playing free and really embracing the fact that he's a starter again and has an opportunity to show something out there for Houston. It was fun to see, and their defense was aggressive and they were making plays, man. 3 interceptions off of Trevor Lawrence, and they surprised me with their grit. David Culley's I think got that back against the wall kind of chip on your shoulder mindset, and I think it's going to help them out this season. And then number 30, we got the New York Jets. I don't remember where I had them initially. I think a little bit higher, but I think the Jets just, already again with injuries. I think Mekhi Becton going down is really going to hurt them. And Zach Wilson played relatively well for having to run for his life. I think they started to pick it up in the second half and really he started to get in the rhythm. And Corey Davis, man, everybody's been, kind of on him, but I always thought that Corey Davis coming into this situation was going to be a receiver one, and he so far has proven that. Had a really nice week 1. Their defense is still, I think, very underrated, very good. Their run defense was pretty good against Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he had too many big plays. I think it's just their secondary is going to be their big problem. They don't have a ton of talent there, and they gave up some big plays against Carolina. But they were in that game for sure. And then at 29, you have Detroit, who I thought was the second worst team this year, and they they came out there and they showed something in that second half. They were down by I want to say 28 at least at one point, maybe even more than that. And then they started to just use the Dan Campbell's, we get knocked down, we're gonna come up and bite some kneecaps, and they did that. And they hurt Raheem Mostert. But Jared Goff, I think in the second half just kind of refocused and was really was really slinging it out there, man. And DeAndre Swift and T.J. Hawkinson were the two guys that I thought were going to carry the offense, and they played a big role in that almost comeback. And Quintus Cephas, one of my dudes, looked really good out there. So, and their defense, I think, kind of came together in the second half and said, hey, let's make these guys work for it. So, I don't think Detroit's going to have a good record, but I think they're going to be in a lot more games than people think with Dan Campbell as their head coach. I think he's steering them in the right direction. And then at number 29, you have the Atlanta Falcons, who I don't want to say higher on, but I thought they could be a sleeper playoff team if everything clicked with Arthur Smith in that offense. But I thought they lacked some, firepower on offense, and their defense is just bad. I think in this game, I don't think their defense could have looked any worse. They just looked lost, man, and they lack some playmakers on that side of the ball. They lack a pass rush. They couldn't touch Jalen Hurts. I think they sacked him maybe once, but they really couldn't get any pressure at all. And their back end, it's questionable. Some of the guys they have back there, and I thought Deion Jones I was looking for him to step up, and he just did not make as many plays as I thought he would. But credit to Philadelphia. They really came out there and drilled them. And then next up, 27, is the New York Giants. I really want to believe in this team, man, but Denver, really came out there and kind of sliced their defense up, which I thought was their best part of this team. But they were able to get to Bridgewater a little bit. But their offense just looks incompetent, man. Their offensive line is one of, if not the worst in the league. Saquon Barkley doesn't look like himself. He looks like a shell of himself, and I don't think he's going to get back to form anytime soon playing for the Giants because, they don't have the pieces on the offensive line to really get him going. And then Daniel Jones looked like the Daniel Jones we know. I mean, he wasn't great out there, and I think the Giants really need to be considering a quarterback in next year's draft. I think they're going to be kicking themselves for years they didn't take Justin Fields. And then 26, you have the team that Justin Fields is on, the Chicago Bears. Their offense was okay. David Montgomery was really pounding the rock, and Andy Dalton was fine. I don't think he was terrible. I think you're playing against the best defense in football, so it's tough to really gauge your offense, especially on a week 1 Sunday night, first home game, LA with fans. It's going to be a tough atmosphere. And their defense really let them down, man. A lot of blown coverages on a veteran defense that I thought should have played a hell of a lot better against the Rams, even though I think the Rams offense is underrated. And then at 25, you have Philadelphia. They really played well. I had questions about Nick Sirianni, but he showed his strength. And even their defense, man, their D-line was great. And their defense held Atlanta, I think, to just like 6 points. So credit to their defense for really stepping up. And their offense looked fluid. And it looked like, Jalen Hurts could be a legitimate franchise quarterback. And Devontae Smith was getting open for him. And, he was getting the ball out quick to Quez Watkins. And they were finding a way to utilize Miles Sanders and really looked, they looked good on offense. And at 24, you have the Carolina Panthers. I'm higher on this team, but they definitely need some work. Their first half was tough. It was tough to get it going, and then they finally got it with a deep shot to Robbie Anderson. And Christian McCaffrey came back, looked really good. I mean, he's incredible, man. But Sam Darnold looked good too. And that offensive line was decent, except for Pat Elflein had, I think, 2 or 3 holding calls that were just blatantly just stupid. And their defense stepped up. They were disguising a lot of their blitzes, and they were really, they worked. They really got to Zach Wilson and gave him fits. So credit to the defense there. I think they were the most impressive part of Carolina's win. And then at 23, I have Denver. And Denver fans might be a little bit like, whoa, we played a really good game. You did. I was impressed by Teddy Bridgewater. He was making plays, man. He looked like Teddy from Minnesota, but it's one game and it's against the Giants. I need to see more, and I think the Jerry Jeudy injury is going to be a little bit of a setback, as he's kind of your guy that's always going to be open. And I think they really need to get Cortland Sutton involved more. I think he was only targeted like 4 times and had 1 catch. He's a big part of this offense, and they need to get him more involved. And their running attack was really good, and their defense was great as always. I mean, they played a weak offensive line, so Von Miller and Chubb and those guys ate. But I think, they had a couple of, turnovers that, could have impacted the game. I think the Albert O fumble was big down in the red zone. And I think they had another, costly series. So I think they just need to clean some stuff up, and they'll rise quickly. I liked their performance. And then above them at 22 is the Cincinnati Bengals. I was really impressed with Cincinnati's defense. Their they held Dalvin Cook to just over 3 yards a carry, and they got after Kirk Cousins. Now they let Minnesota back into the game, but I think overall they had a really nice performance. And their offense, there were some shaky bumps, but Joe Burrow's legit, man. I think he's truly, if he gets his confidence back in him, I think he's truly an MVP candidate. And Jamar Chase really showed people why he was the number one receiver in this draft. T. Higgins played really well as well. I think Tyler Boyd needs to be more involved, but they, Zach Taylor showed some guts going for it on 4th and 1 there in overtime as well. So congrats to the Bengals on that nice win. And then at 21, I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but it's the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I know they beat the New England Patriots, but nothing about their win impressed me. They were playing game management football with Tua Tagovailoa. Tua didn't do anything in that game. Nothing about anything in that game from Tua impressed me at all. In fact, it almost proved my opinion right that Tua just is not a franchise quarterback. The interception he had was just stupid. He just threw it up for grabs, and it was tipped and it was intercepted by Jonathan Jones with his good ball skills. But their defense is very good. They're very well coached, and that's going to be the reason why they win. But they just win with opportunistic turnovers, and it's how long can they sustain that? I don't know how long they can sustain that. And then their offense is just below average, to put it nicely. I mean, I wasn't really impressed with their offense, and half the time they're using Jalen Waddle as a decoy on drags instead of using his deep ball ability, because Tua can't throw a deep ball. And then at 20, you have the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is another team that people are going to be like, why do you have them lower? Wentz looked okay. There was kind of a point in the game where he was kind of trying to figure out, best how to, manage the game, I think, whether or not he needed to be superhero Wentz or, just kind of sit back. I think really their biggest issue is managing personnel on offense, kind of what running back to put in the game, what receiver to put in the game. And I think Reich and Wentz will get there. I'm just a little lower on this team right now, especially with Wentz missing a portion of training camp and Nelson missing a portion of training camp as well. And then their defense was all right. I think their secondary got burnt pretty good. Tyler Lockett made some big plays. So they just got to clean some stuff up. They got a tough opponent, LA Rams, next week at home. So we'll see how that goes. Then you got the Las Vegas Raiders at 19. I was really, really low on this team, just from the standpoint of just some of the stupid decisions they made, taking Alex Leatherwood in the first round, paying Kenyon Drake a lot of money. Past decisions like taking Cleveland Farrell number 4 overall and taking Jonathan Abram in the first round. But I will say, Las Vegas last night was very impressive. Derek Carr was very impressive. He played the best game of his career, I thought, last night. Really slinging it. Brian Edwards, one of my dudes, just absolutely going off out there on offense, making some key plays for them. And then Zay Jones getting open on that nice go ball to win the game. And then their defense, man, they got after it in the second half, and they forced Lamar to fumble twice, and those were really costly turnovers for the Ravens, man, that cost them the game. And that was great to see the Raiders defense, which I think has been their weakness over the last couple of years, get after Lamar, really show that they could get pressure. And Max Crosby played a phenomenal game, and then forced turnovers, which they also haven't been able to do, and they forced 2 huge ones to really propel them to win that game. So it was good to see that out of Vegas. Then at 18, we have the football team. Their defense really let them down on third down. And I think, it's I don't think it's going to be, like that every week. I think they're going to come back next week and really take it to the Giants, who have a weak offensive line. And then, Fitzpatrick got hurt, and that's going to, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because I'm a believer in Taylor Heineke, and I think he can, elevate this offense. So we'll see how that impacts Washington over the next, 6 to 8 weeks. And then I have the Minnesota Vikings, who were really underwhelming. I think their offense didn't really get it going in the second half, and Justin Jefferson was not involved at all. Adam Thielen looked good, and KJ Osborne really kind of showed out there for the Vikings. But Dalvin Cook didn't look good. This offensive line I thought was going to be one of the better ones in the league gave up a lot of sacks and TFLs to this Bengals D line, and their defense was not very impressive at all. So I think Minnesota's got to regroup and get it right, because they started off 0-4 last year. They could easily do that this year. And then I got the Tennessee Titans at 16. Nothing about them was impressive. Their defense just got absolutely torched by Kyler Murray in Arizona. There was no bright spot on their defense at all. And then on offense, Taylor Lewan just got absolutely dusted by Chandler Jones, who had maybe the best game of his career. And Derrick Henry they couldn't run the ball at all. Derrick Henry was horrible, and Ryan Tannehill really just could not hang on to the football and kept getting sacked. I mean, it was a bad performance all around by Tennessee. Hopefully they'll bounce back. I think they're a better team than what they showed on Sunday, but the holes definitely showed in their team. Their defense, I don't think, is as good as advertised, and I think they might be missing Corey Davis. I'm just going to throw that out there. And then at 15, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who did impress me. Their offense is a juggernaut, for sure, with CeeDee Lamb. And, Michael Gallup's hurt, so, there's going to be some production needed picked up there from Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown and those other guys there. But CeeDee Lamb had a couple bad drops, but he was otherwise good. And Amari Cooper just might be the best receiver in the NFL this year. I mean, he was unguardable that night. And they're going to need some production picked up from their tight ends. And, everybody was like, why didn't they give Zeke the ball? It's because Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh changed game plans. And I think, you'll see more incorporation of Zeke throughout the season. But I think it was just a game plan type thing. And then their defense, man, was rough. They gave up a lot of big plays. They couldn't get to Tom Brady at all. Tom Brady had all day to throw. They did have 4 turnovers. That were, I think, just kind of flukes. I mean, Leonard Fournette goes right through his hands right into Trayvon Diggs, and then Rojo fumbles. That was a legit one where DeMarcus Lawrence with the punches it out. That was a great play. And then the interception at the end of the half was kind of whatever. And then they had the Godwin fumble, which was another good play. So I think really 2 of them were forced by the Cowboys, and 2 of them were, one of them was kind of whatever. It was a Hail Mary at the end of the half, and the other one was, Leonard Fournette dropping a pass. And then at 14, we have the New England Patriots. Their defense needs to be more consistent. They were good on third down, but, the 2 drives to open up each half were bad. I mean, Miami just drove it right down the field on them, and they need to clean some things up. And then on offense, you just need to stop with the stupid penalties and fumbling. Ramondre Stevenson was down. It wasn't a fumble. Bad call by the refs. And then Damian Harris was getting a lot of workload, and he just was kind of out of gas and fumbled at the end, which was tough. And then defense couldn't get a stop. But Mac Jones looked really good. He had some velocity on some of his throws and was really accurate. I mean, other than that one dumb kind of, pass he threw behind him to Johnny Smith, I think they were great. And they got a bunch of guys involved in the offense, so you like to see that. So I'm excited to see them next week against the Jets. And then right above them, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. I wasn't really impressed by Justin Herbert. I was more impressed by the ability of Keenan Allen just consistently get open on third down and for them to convert. I don't think it was as much of Herbert as the football team. And, Herbert made a boneheaded move and threw an interception that could have cost them late, except Antonio Gibson fumbled on the next play. It was just a dumb throw, throwing it wide out comeback late. and it was intercepted by William Jackson. And that's just my thing with Herbert, man, is he makes some of those one or two boneheaded moves every game, and it's lucky it didn't cost him on this one. But their defense really stepped up, held Washington in the red zone, gave up yards but didn't give up points, which I think as long as you don't give up points, I'm good with you giving up yards, and their defense really, really impressed me. Derwin James looked just back to the way he was his rookie year, and Asante Samuel Jr. looked really good. And Joey Bosa is an absolute monster, man. They got after it on that pass rush as well. Number 12, I have New Orleans. They're a solid football team. Really pounded Green Bay into the ground, and Jameis looks really good. But we gotta see it. We gotta keep seeing that. I think Sean Payton's a very smart guy on offense, and he's going to figure out how to utilize all these guys. And then when they get Michael Thomas back, they'll have even more weapons. And their defense was really good, man. I mean, Rodgers could not figure out this defense, man. I mean, seriously, their pass rush got after him, and then their secondary was locked down the whole game, man. They played a phenomenal game on defense, had a great defensive game plan. And then at number 11, I've got Pittsburgh. I wanted to put them higher, but I just couldn't yet. And I think it's because I need to see more from their offense. I think they got a couple calls that went their way with the pass interference call when Ben threw it up to Chase Claypool and it was underthrown. I really think if the ball is underthrown, they can't bail out the offense with pass interference calls, but they ended up capitalizing on that and scoring, and then they went back down the field and kicked a field goal to go up 3, and then they had the blocked punt, so special teams and defense really come in handy. And I think the turning point of that game was that T.J. Watt forced fumble. He had a great game for them, and then they stopped them when they needed to in the second half. I think it was partly because Buffalo was just too greedy and not going for field goals and trying to go for touchdowns. But credit to Pittsburgh, man. It wasn't the prettiest of performances, but sometimes you got to win ugly football games, and they did. And credit to their defense because they stopped a prolific offense in Buffalo. And then you got number 10, the Baltimore Ravens. I think last night's on Lamar, man. Lamar, 2 costly fumbles in the end. And I think they just need to kind of refocus. I think, you got Latavius Murray, you got Le'Veon Bell, and you got Devontae Freeman. So you reloaded this backfield up after injuries. And you just need to kind of refocus on offense. And I think you need to go back to more of kind of what they did in the first year with Lamar, where it's, a lot more, option game and misdirection and getting different guys involved. I think, they need to get these tight ends involved. Boyle and Mark Andrews, I think they're difference makers out there, both in the blocking game and the passing game, and they just didn't, Lamar didn't find them. But Marquise Brown was probably the one bright spot, and he finally looked like a first-round pick out there. I mean, he was getting open and making plays for this Ravens team. And then I have number 9, the Arizona Cardinals, with an absolute dominant win over Tennessee. Their defense looked way better than advertised. J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones were wreaking havoc all day, and their secondary held up better than I thought. Byron Murphy and Budda Baker were just making plays all over the field and really catalyzing that defense. And I think Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons were just, they were tackling Derrick Henry one-on-one, and they were taking it to Derrick Henry, man. They definitely won that battle and had a great defensive game plan. And then on offense, Kyler Murray's untouchable, man. I mean, he was just having his way with Tennessee's defense. They could not touch him. And then DeAndre Hopkins was just burning them. I mean, no one could guard him or Christian Kirk, so they really impressed out there. I was really impressed with Arizona. And then I got San Francisco. I'm dropping down a little bit. The Seattle is ahead of them. I just think that they let Detroit back in the game for no reason, man. I mean, they had a chance to close it out, and Deebo Samuel, fumbles, and then they give them a chance to tie the game. They didn't. They stopped them on defense, but they just let a bad Detroit team back in the game. They should have won that game by 40, and they won it by 8. So, I mean, it's just, you got to clean some stuff up. And then Raheem Mostert getting hurt. I don't think it's that big a deal. Elijah Mitchell stepped up. You got Jeff Wilson coming back, and Trey Sermon should be active, so I think they'll be fine. But the 2 QB system is going to be interesting to watch this season. So we'll see how Shanahan implements that throughout the year. And then at number 7, I have the Buffalo Bills. Just dropping down a little bit because I thought that a lot of people say they didn't play bad, but I just thought when they needed to execute, they didn't. And that's kind of been the story with Buffalo is in these big games, even against Baltimore last year in the playoffs when they won. They won the game because Lamar Jackson threw a dumb throw on a pick six. I don't think it's because of the way that Buffalo executed it. It was just a dumb play by Lamar. And I think, a lot of times last year they got bailed out because their opponent gave them the game. And Pittsburgh didn't give them the game. Pittsburgh hung around. They let Pittsburgh hang around, and they didn't put the dagger in them. And then Pittsburgh put the dagger in when they blocked the punt. So I think back to the drawing board. I don't think Josh Allen played very well. I thought he was very conservative, which is very strange for Josh Allen. He wasn't really pushing the ball downfield at all, and there was, they lacked just a big play element to their offense that they were missing last year. I didn't really see that. And then their defense, I thought, played pretty well. They got after Big Ben. They really did. And they stopped Najee Harris cold. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't do anything for them. I think it was just a couple of bad breaks. With calls that didn't go their way, and then obviously they got put in a hole after the blocked punt. So I think Buffalo's going to be fine. So it's just kind of redesigning a game plan next week for Miami against another good defensive team. So number 5, we got the Cleveland Browns. Yes, they lost the game in typical Browns fashion with the punter bobbling the snap. But for the first 3.5 quarters, Cleveland was a better team than Kansas City and had them on the ropes. And for Kevin Stefanski to go out there, drive down the field, and have the balls to go for 2 is very impressive. I just think with Cleveland, they got to play 60 minutes, man. They got all the talent in the world. They just got to play 60 minutes. And, Baker Mayfield's playing for a contract. He legitimately looked like a legit number 1 quarterback out there. I mean, top 10, he looked like a top 10 quarterback out there. I was very impressed with Baker's performance. They just got to clean some things up and play 60 minutes of football. And then we got the Green Bay Packers, who definitely got shellacked on Sunday against the Saints. But I think it's a fluke. Their defense really didn't come out at all. They just didn't look prepared. Which is rare from a Matt LaFleur team. They've been very consistent and haven't lost a ton of games. And I think next week they got Detroit on Monday night, and I think they're going to come out there and they're going to play like the Packers of old. I think their defense is going to be much better. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to actually look like he wants to be out on the field with that team, and really go out there and dot up the Lions. But they did not look good at all, man. I mean, Rodgers had 2 pass attempts by the 2-minute warning. They gave up 2 15-play drives. And that's like the first time since like 2000 since somebody's done that. And that's not good, man. But I think part of it was personnel too. I think we didn't see Cobb or Amari Rodgers in the game until the second half, which is inexcusable. I mean, how the hell do you not have one of them in the slot at all times? I mean, I don't really understand that, but the Packers got to figure some stuff out. And then leapfrogging up to 3, I have the Los Angeles Rams, who dominated Chicago. I mean, their defense, I thought, was one of the best in the league and looked like it, against that Chicago Bear offense. Aaron Donald didn't do much till late, but, he was opening up the play for others. I mean, Mac Hollins was out there making plays, had 2 sacks and a forced fumble, and Jalen Ramsey just, being that energy guy for them as always, coming up, making plays in the run as well as in the pass. And then their offense, I mean, Stafford and McVay is just going to be an unfair combo, man. Opening up the game with a 67-yard touchdown of Van Jefferson was just epic. And they're going to be lethal this year, man, on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're just ridiculous going out there. And then number 2, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. If we're being honest, man, the Kansas City Chiefs missed Sammy Watkins. There was nobody out there making plays other than Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They don't have another weapon on this offense. CEH didn't do much, and Mahomes was just looking for a Hill and Kelce. I don't know if Mecole Hardman had more than like 2 or 3 catches, and Demarcus Robinson wasn't making plays. It was all Tyreek and Travis Kelce. And I think the Chiefs could be in trouble. I'm going to leave them at number 2 for right now. But I don't know, man. They can't keep getting into holes, man, because one of these times, just like in Tampa Bay, they're going to get into a hole too deep to dig out, and they're going to lose games. And even with their improved offensive line, I don't know, man. I don't see they truly lack weapons on offense that can make plays other than Tyreek and Travis Kelce, and I don't think it was more evident than what we saw yesterday, or I guess on Sunday. I mean, it was just bad, and their defense is bad, man. Their defense is not good at all. I mean, they did get stops when they needed to, but their defense is not very good. And then at number 1, of course, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Didn't play particularly well on last Thursday. They need to clean some things up, limit the turnovers, limit the mistakes, limit the penalties. But, they're the best team for a reason. They got the most talent. I don't think Sean Murphy-Bunting injury, he's not going to be out the whole year, but it's definitely going to affect them because, they're not as deep at DB as they are at some other positions. So we'll see how that affects them. But I think Tampa Bay still really played well. They just got to clean some things up, and I still think they're the best team in football. So that was my power rankings for you. Let me know what you think. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Your opinions. I know Miami Dolphin fans are going to be pissed at me, but it's my list, so you can't change my opinion. So Wednesday we're going to have a video reacting to all the games. It's going to be probably longer. I'm going to go in depth, I think, more on that. And then Friday, I think we're going to do top 5 best and worst performances via players. And then, I'll have, another video, another Power Rankings edition on Tuesday. I don't know if I have a video in between there or not, but thanks for watching, everybody. Episode 9. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day and peace.